Alrighty, what is quacking, everybody? After a little over 100 hour fest, I finally beat Persona 5 Royal. I've been grinding out the last week or so, trying to get the game finished, and I finally have completed Persona 5 Royal. The game was fantastic. And I'm going to start with the music because I feel like that's the number one thing people want to hear about is the music. How good is the music? Some people say 4 has the best music, 3 has the best music, 5 has the best music. I will say 5 has phenomenal music. It is great. Is it better than 3 though? I don't think 4 has the best music. I talked about that in my Persona 4 review, but 5 has really good music, and I think in some areas 5 overtakes 3, such as the palaces. Compare the palaces to Tartarus or Mementos, and it's just like 5 just has more unique music. I like Mementos' like jazzy, as you go through the entire thing, compared to Tartarus, where it's just more so like creepy ambient noise basically. And that's kind of like how it is throughout the entirety of Tartarus. Is just mostly just like kind of like ambient music that's just kind of there, not really anything too crazy. And then, comparing all that to also the palaces as well, you have the palaces where the music is just really just nice and solidified, especially the later palaces like Sai's Palace, for example. That song, it's on my playlist right now. It's on my playlist. That song is so good. And then on top of that, the elegant pianos of Maruki's Palace, it's so nice. That's also on our playlist as well. So like the palace music, I definitely will say overtakes Persona 3's like ambient music for Tartarus. The intros, Persona 3 beats out 5. I'm sorry, like there's no discussion with that. Persona 3 beats out 5, and through your everyday casual like walking around, when you're not, fighting shadows, I think 3 has a better, vibe as you go around the town and when you're inside the dorm compared to 5. It's very close though. It's very close, but 3 ekes out in some spots over 5, and 5 ekes it out over some spots in 3, in my humble opinion. The next is the environments. The environments of 5 are amazing. Each palace is just so uniquely crafted, and it feels just tailored to the person that you're invading. You have Kamoshida's castle, the museum from Madarame, the bank from Kaneshiro. My favorite one is the yacht sailing through a sinking city, giving me this post-apocalyptic vibe on Shido's palace, and it's just a beautiful, gorgeous yacht surrounded by sinking buildings. And I think that was just like one of my favorite moments. And then Sai's palace as well, with the casinos and the flashy look. It's just all amazing. I really wasn't, too keen on Okumura's palace. It was cool, but it was just like kind of like a sci-fi whatever. Like it was still a good looking palace. But overall, the environments of 5 are just so good. Walking through the city as well, experiencing the sights. It's just the environments of 5 are just fantastic. It's so great. It's such a beautiful game too. And obviously when they remade 3 Reload is also a beautiful game as well, but 5 is just breathtakingly gorgeous, just going through everything as you play through the game. And then also the pyramid stuff as well from Futaba's palace, that was just amazing. That was like, I felt like I was actually in Egypt. Like that's how cool that Futaba's palace was. Gameplay wise, it played exactly like every single Persona before it, except they added some new tweaks. The gameplay is still solid, still, your normal turn-based game, but they added some more, they added like more abilities and stuff. The curse, they switched darkness to curse, but they added psychokinesis and nuclear damage, and adding these extra damages was nice, but I felt like there was just way too many damage types and it made things a little bit clunky. when trying to fight multiple enemies who had different weaknesses. And, you know, if I brought a certain team and they just didn't cover that weakness, it's like I had to switch to a persona. And then sometimes, like, I wouldn't be able to still cover weaknesses. So it was just a little bit clunky, but it was still fine overall. It was nice having the little extra elements, a little, you know, here and there, and also changing darkness to curse. Light still looks like light, but I think it's called bless now. And then you only have the 2 physical damage types compared to Persona 3 Reload's 3 physical damage types. And 5, it's only like just regular basic hits and then gunshots or like shooting. So all of that stuff is like pretty cool. It's nice. Gameplay wise as well, they added some stuff to the social links that enhanced your gameplays. Specifically, the Shogi girl, when you upgrade her social link, you can swap out your party members mid-battle. That is such a huge change, and it was awesome. And I really hope we get that for a future Persona game. And on top of that gameplay change, they also added allowing you to purchase personas that are above your level if you have the funds for it. That is also fantastic because it just allows me to feel more free and complete my compendium on my first playthrough a lot easier, because now I can just fork over money, I can grind for money and just like really get the personas that I want to use and really just like clean things up. It's so nice. Just having those 2 things that like change the game is amazing. Like, those are easily my 2 biggest like gameplay improvements. Like, granted, you have to unlock those things like through social links, but those are easily my 2 biggest gameplay improvements right there. That is so amazing. Also, using the true sight thing to like kind of like notice different secrets and stuff, that's also pretty cool as well when running through palaces. So hopefully, you know, in a future Persona game, we have something that is like, you know, more intricate that, you know, could require like, hey, a true sight, you know, maybe you didn't notice something or maybe you're trying to look around for something. That'd be cool as well. But all the gameplay is pretty solid. We had the guns in this game as well, which using the gun mechanic was pretty cool. Especially when you also, again, upgrade another social link. You can start off a game where you ambush things. Like, if you get a good ambush, you can just unleash a hail of bullets and just get everything down to half health, which is really good for late game, especially when all of the shadows are really strong. So it's amazing for late game, just being able to cut down all of their things. One of the things, gameplay-wise, that was kind of meh to me was how weak the Reaper was. I don't know if this is really a gameplay thing, but it's just a little side note for me. The Reaper was so weak. I don't know what, I 3-turned it. I 3-turned it. I got the Izunagi Final Form the World one. And that one, I guess, like, I don't think this ability is in 3 Reload, but it has the ability where the more your compendium's filled up, the more damage it does. And I just, you know, I just concentrated and just used it, and it hits 3 times. And I just melted the Reaper in 3 turns, and I was like, oh, all right, that's cool. Compared to 3 Reload, where I jumped the Reaper, nuked him with Theurgies, and he still didn't even crack half of his health. Might have been a little under leveled for the 3 Reload Reaper, but I was still very close to beating it before it wiped my team. But in 5, it was just a pushover. It was just an honest to God pushover. So that was like my only letdown, is I was like ready for the Reaper fight, and then it was like, bam, it's dead. And I'm like, oh, well, I hyped myself up for nothing. The social links in this game were really good. None of them annoyed me. I didn't feel annoyed having to go through their social links compared to some previous games. Like in 3, you have to talk to the guy who has like a fetish for older women. And then in 4, Chie annoyed me. Her social link was just so annoying. She's like, oh, I just like, like, they had like a couple key moments where it's like, oh, let's stop these bullies. But otherwise, like, Chie is like annoying to me. So there was a couple social links that were annoying in the previous games. I found none of them annoying in 5. I would say some of them were more lackluster and boring for the most part. Like, I felt like honestly sitting through Maruki's social link along with like, I think just Maruki's social link was just a little bit boring to me, honestly. And the reporter social link, those two didn't really like, they like talked about some things, but like it didn't really feel super impactful compared to like other social links. You know, you have Ryuji's like redemption arc. He's just like, you know, wants to do things with the track team. You have An trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. And that's like kind of what I like about these social links is they feel relatable for the most part. When you're going with the main cast social links, you're mostly they're just there and they're trying to figure out their life. And you're just there with them trying to help everyone figure out their life. And it's really nice and it feels relatable, which is probably why I don't like hate any social links, because it's just like, oh, like, you know, they're trying to figure out what they want to do in life and everybody has to go through that. But I think overall my favorite social link is Sojiro's social link, because it just like, you know, he starts off just like kind of like a hard ass indifferent or whatever, you know, and then as we go through the game, like we learn more about him, but also he gets like lighter and more easy to deal with because, you know, he's losing that armor and he's like opening up to you. And then once Futaba gets in the picture, it's just like seeing him try to become just a really good dad and work his best to provide for Futaba and all these different things. And it's such a good social link. Like it really kind of hit a sweet spot for me a little bit. Like maybe I'm overhyping it, but it was a really good social link in my opinion. Now, the downside to a lot of the social links in this game was the fact that it was a lot of story timing lockouts compared to other games. Other games, like in 3, for example, all of the social links are basically free. Like there's a couple of them that you have to wait. I know Yukari's you have to wait July 24th, I believe is the date. I only remember that because I'm just replaying the game again. And Mitsuru, hers is like after like some crazy stuff towards the end of the game. And Aegis doesn't open up until the end of the game as well. But for the most part, like almost all of them are just there. Like you don't have to worry about any story progression, no date lockouts unless I'm forgetting something, but you just grind through all of them and you unlock a couple of them through talking to other social links like Stripey, the sun social link, the tower social link with the monk, the devil social link with the guy who sells things, snake oil guy. So like those ones. And then in 4, their Adachi's was time-based, but I think that was the only one that was really time-based for the most part. I think 4 was super annoying because it was based off of weather, and if it was raining, people would just be like, oh, yeah, it's raining, like, I don't care about you. So I think that was the annoying one about 4. But 5, you had Morgana's that was locked out through the entire progression, which Morgana is the magician arcana, which I like. You know, there's a lot of good magician personas. You have the magician that was locked out. Ryuji's get locked out at a certain point and you have to like immediately answer his phone call, and you only get like one chance a month. So if you forget to answer his phone call, like you have to wait an entire month to like do it again basically. Then the justice one is you don't even start that one until like you're basically at the end of the game, and then that one auto finishes. Then there's Akechi's where the last one's just like auto finish, and then there's Yoshizawa. Hers is halfway locked until you do the true ending. And then you also have Maruyuki, who his last one, if you get him to 9, it just auto completes, which is fine, but it's just like, why did I have to get all the way to 9? Just like let me just auto complete him before like the timeline is finished. But it was just very annoying to just have certain social links just be locked behind the story progression, where it's just like, just give me more freedom. And also, granted, 5 was pretty handholdy for the first couple palaces as well. I really didn't feel like I had too much freedom early in the game, and it only really opened up after like Kanashiro's palace basically. That's just like how I felt and how I see like going through the game, is it was just kind of handholdy for the most part. So I didn't really feel too much freedom with my social links, and I really disliked how a lot of them were just like story progression based, or it was just like locked out behind like one thing, and it was just really annoying. Now, the main cast of characters also didn't annoy me. One of my gripes I do have though is they shit on Ryuji way too much. Like this, like Ryuji plays, he's comparable to Junpei, or I forgot his name in Persona 4, but kind of just like, oh, the dumb guy who doesn't do well on tests or whatever, and just is kind of like a hard head. Ryuji also has like a little bit mixtures of kanji from Persona 4, so he just has your stereotypical just like, oh, I don't study for tests or whatever, I say some dumb things. But like, no one ever gives Ryuji respect ever. As the amount of times Ryuji puts himself first to like really either like sacrifice himself or do something for the team, no one really gives this guy props. Like, people gave Junpei props in 3 even after he fell in love with the girl that he can't fix. He was like, I could fix her. No, we told him no, but we still were like, it's okay, Junpei, we still love you. You're still part of this team. You're our guy. Ryuji, I feel like, just gets dunked on repeatedly, even more so than like the dude from 4. Like, he had like his merits and everything as well. Still forgot his name, but like, Ryuji just gets absolutely just like dogged on, even after Shido's palace, where he's like, I might die here, but he sprints down and saves everybody and gives everybody a lifeboat, and everyone thought he was dead, and they're like, oh my god. But then like, they immediately just like, I know like, oh, he just comes out of nowhere and he's just like, oh, whatever, but like, they just immediately start dunking on him repeatedly again after that. Like, Ryuji just got no slack, and I think they could have done Ryuji a little bit more justice in the game, because they just kept dunking on my boy. They just kept dunking on him. But besides the Ryuji thing, the main cast was full of honestly really interesting and colorful characters, and I enjoyed that. I liked Ans, she's from the West and all that other things, and she just wants to be, do her own thing. You have Haru, who's like just trying to like live up to her like father's company, and she's upset that he's dead and all that other things. Like, she still wants to do good by him even though he wasn't a good father. You have Makoto, who's just trying to like find her way in life, and really like, Makoto is probably like one of the more basic ones, honestly. But then you have like Yusuke, who loves his art and like is trying to find inspiration in the world. You have Futaba with her quirks, Morgana just being annoying as well, Akechi being a psychopath, Yoshizawa, being like, your amazing gymnast, heart of gold, hardworking girl. Like, I really felt like the cast had a lot more uniqueness and shine, especially compared to 4's cast. I feel like 4's cast, they had their little quirks and they were decent, but they had nothing on 5's cast. And honestly, like, I would go to say it definitely competes with 3's cast. I feel like 3's cast, they're a little bit more like uptight and superficial. Like, they have their personalities and quirks to them, but some of them you don't find out until later in the story, once they start opening up more and you do their social links. So like, Junpei is kind of like the most like charismatic one in 3, but like, I feel like the rest of them are like a little bit more like uptight and just like really focused on the Dark Hour, compared to 5, where it feels like they're kind of just like, yeah, we're gonna stop people, but also we have lives. So I think 5's cast really just kind of shines super bright. So hopefully in the future we get like another similar, bright shining cast. And I hope, I know it's hard, but hopefully they don't reuse a lot of, tropes, especially like kind of like the first like real person you really interact with in a lot of these games, like, Junpei and what's his face in 4 and Ryuji. It's kind of all like the same like oafy friend who likes girls and stuff. So if they could stop using that, that'd be great. And they just, found different personality traits. I feel like Ryuji was like one of the more different ones. But yeah, the cast definitely shown pretty well in this game. Now, I've been glazing and praising this game with some nitpicks and some, little things, but the story is the thing that had me built up to the like really high, to the point where I thought it was going to compete with 3, and then it dropped me off of a cliff. Oh my god. Maybe I'm being a little bit too dramatic about the story, But the intro with Joker getting caught, and the game just starts off running. The game starts off running with Joker getting caught, and then as you go through the palaces, like, these people are pieces of shit, you know, dealing with Kamoshida and his abuse towards the volleyball team, sexual and physical abuse, Madarame's counterfeit. You deal with a gangster, a real gangster who wants to he's just blackmailing you, but he very well just could have killed all of you guys right there in his, like, little lounge. So you deal, like, with these very colorful characters and, like, these real, like, trash enemies, and the story is just, like, insane. One of my biggest gripes with the story is the pacing with the whole you're stuck in a cell or whatever. And I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to do gotcha with the Akechi stuff, and like, oh, we're gonna dupe Akechi and gotta do all these things. That's why Joker had to get caught or whatever. So I get that. But it's kind of weird going for, like, an ending perspective, because you can end the game right there if you snitch on everybody in size. So I felt like the getting caught thing was kind of weird, but I get what they were going for, so I could give that a pass. Like, I understood, but I can give it a pass. And then after that, you stop Shido and everything. And then after you stop Shido, that's when it gets to... They took Persona's 4 ending and Persona's 3, like, endings and parts of 3 and 4, and they just said, here's a 2.0 version. Because after you beat Shido, you're like, oh, it should be over, right? Like, you know, I would have been perfectly content if, you know, Shido died, or not Shido died, but, like, you know, you stop Shido and, you know, he confesses and people are like, oh my god, or whatever. But then you go to Mementos, and I was like, you know what, Mementos does make sense. And I was hoping that Mementos would have something a little bit more concrete and different, but it's just the same thing as the giant gas ball from 4. It's just like, this is what people want. People want to be controlled. People want to, you know, not have free will or whatever. So I'm gonna do that to them. I'm gonna merge Mementos with the real world and just take everyone's free will. So that was just a massive letdown, where it was just like, it had this great story, and then it's just like, you just gave me Persona 4 with some Persona 3 at the end. Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me? Like, I've already seen this ending before. Like, I would have been content with anything else, but instead it's a god. It's just like, oh, I'm a god, and, you know, this is what the people want. People made me, I'm the god. Like, that's it. That's cool, whatever. I'm a god. Like, I did not like that like, it didn't have to be a god. It could have just been anything else. But to me, one thing that was a crazy part that I kind of was, like, a little messed up about, that I did like about the ending, is the fact that Igor was evil the whole time, and the real Igor was in, like, some weird stasis. That was the one thing that was like, whoa, this is insane. I was like, no way, because Igor has a different voice when you're playing the game, and I was like, oh, they must have changed voice actors. So I was like, oh, whatever, they changed Igor's voice, that's cool. But then we get real Igor back at the end, because Dark Igor's like, oh, this is what humanity wanted. I'm gonna make sure humanity gets what they want. And I was just trying to use you to make sure humanity, you know, could get what they want. And I was just like, that is insane. That is wild. And the fact that the twins were one person as well, that part, I like that part. I think they could have stuck with that part, and instead of the ending being like, I'm a god, this is what people want, you have to fight a god, because you have to fight a god in every Persona game. It's just like, oh, instead of I'm a god, it could have just been like, Dark Igor is a manifestation of everyone's, like, power, and then you go down to the depths of Mementos, and it's just a giant shadow, and as you fight through it, it just has different phases and different attacks and stuff like that. And as you beat it down, it just gets, like, a little bit harder for certain phases and stuff like that. It could have just been that. And then we finally just, you know, beat people's, like, false desires or whatever to really give everyone, you know, clarity. And, you know, we change everybody's heart. But instead it was, I kill a fucking god. Like, he fuses Mementos with the world, which is, like, basically the dark hour. You know, everyone waking up during the dark hour at the end of 3. And then it's like you fight a god at the end of 4 after you beat up Adachi. It's just like, okay, that's cool. all right, it didn't have to be a god. It could have been anything else, but nope, it was a god. So there was that. And then that is definitely the part that I was just like, all right, like you took the wind out of my sails a little bit. This game was very close to beating out 3 for me, but because of like the ending, I was like, nah, this is not beating out 3, unfortunately. The true ending did give some redemption, not that much though. I really liked the Maruki true ending because he basically just capitalizes on the power vacuum that was left over from Mementos, and he just takes over Mementos and uses it to just kind of reshape the world. And he's definitely a bad guy where you're like, he's got a point. He might have a point, which is, something you can't really say a lot about a lot of villains in certain medias. But this one, I'm just like, he's got a point. Like, he's trying to make everyone's lives better. Like, he's got a really good point here. And I do like how you get to experience his world as well, because he's like, oh, experience my world. So it wasn't really a needed true ending as well, because I felt like the base ending was perfectly fine. But it's nice. It's a nice little, like, on top, he capitalized off of the power vacuum and everything to make his dreams come true with his powers and everything. And he had a really good palace as well. And it was just an overall, just like kind of like nice ending, just experiencing the world and everything like that, in Maruki's perfect reality. And then when you get to Maruki and you fight his boss fight, it's a great boss fight. It is a phenomenal boss fight fighting him as well. And then towards the end, he has this giant mech that you fight, and then at the end you just box him because you beat him, and everything's collapsing. Finally, Mementos is collapsing. Everything is officially collapsing because Maruki was holding everything together to try and visualize his dream. And you just box him. You just punch each other, and that's pretty funny. But then you save him at the end, and then you get the true ending. And I think Maruki was just a good little touch that kind of brought the game back a little bit with the true ending, because again, like, you had a relationship with this guy, and I really feel like the music and the environment reflected that, because it's just like, oh man, like, I gotta go fight like a friend, basically. Like, this was like kind of like your friend for the most part. Like, I gotta go like stop my friend. So Maruki definitely did redeem a lot of, not like wholly redeem it, but it brought it back a little bit. So it was a good experience. 5 Royal was a very solid experience. If I didn't play 4 before I played 5, I definitely might have said it was better than 3, but after playing 4 before 5, I was like, it just does not beat out 3. 3 is still definitively the best story. But that's all for me for Persona. If you like me yapping, subscribe. I yap about games that I play. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.